record, and I don't know what we're gonna capture. And we waiting
Okay,
on
and
Kirsten.
Kirsten is coming. She's coming. I just talked to her.
Okay. I gotta keep my head down. Look, and this the other thing. Like after watching this, I feel like so empowered to just show up. I ain't put no earrings on. I ain't even brush up under my hair. I just like those young ladies just moved me. Like just moved
Oh,
me. Their
thank you.
vulnerability and their willingness to do all that on tape. Now I facilitated some groups with some young ladies, but I don't know if they would have got that real if the camera was rolling that whole time.
Hmm.
And so that
It
that
took a
alone,
long time to get there. Yes.
yeah, that alone was just like that alone was powerful that they allowed you all that access throughout their lives for over 8 to 10 years, right?
Hmm. Yep. From middle school, and now the oldest one is 29. The youngest one is 22.
Okay, here's Kirsten. I see her. Hello,
Yeah.
hello.
Hi.
Hi, Kirsten. How are you?
Hi, it's nice to meet you, Tiffany.
Oh, so I didn't. I never caught your name on the video. You had me crying all over the place. I was just telling Nikiea I had to get my. I couldn't even get my face or none of that because I've been watching the video and I'm just like, oh, it's 1:25. I'm like, I gotta get started. Um,
Yeah.
so I didn't even get a chance to look cute, but I was telling the kid that it felt so okay to just show up today just
Yeah.
because of the content of the film and how that theme of just if you can just show up,
Mm.
if you can just show up wherever you are and however you're feeling. I'm at the retreat, by the way, so I'm at the retreat, and where Kirsten is like, I'm planning this retreat, and it's just going to shit. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God. Like, I know that feeling when you have all the kids together and you want them to enjoy themselves and you did all of this planning and then life happens and gets in
Yeah.
the way. And so I just want to first start off by saying thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing for this interview. I just saw it pop through my email, and Nikiea, I forgot that we had even had a connection, but I met you through Sarah, right?
Mm.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Yes.
yeah. So it
Yeah.
was like when I saw that name, I was like, I know her. And I'm like, okay, okay. And for me, I've been also just looking for ways to share my own gifts of storytelling. Like this film has just been like young Tiffany. If I growing up, I'm just watching these girls and I didn't even have the guts uh to share so openly like that. And I know that is strictly because of you all and how you all have shown up and done your hard work to be available for them. So I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing that work, even though it's just coming out and coming to light now through the film festival. But that work I know has impacted those young ladies' lives forever, forever.
Thank
So
you.
welcome,
Well,
welcome,
yeah.
welcome. And so I got so many notes here. I guess one of the obvious things is where did the anatomy part come from? Like the anatomy of wings.
Mm.
Where did that name come from?
It has quite a history, doesn't it, Nikia?
It does.
Yeah.
It definitely does. It definitely, well, when we started the program, well, when the initial woman started the program, Allison Welch, she called it Finding Your Wings. And I was a volunteer, Kirsten was a volunteer, and then Allison moved to Chicago, and Kirsten took on the program, and it became a video skills program. And Kirsten dropped the Y, and now it was finding our wings. So the anatomy of wings is fitting because it's about the wings program. We dub it wings, you know. So
Yeah.
it I believe that's where it it came from. I know it's where it came from, but I know that it fits so well because it the whole movie just goes through the gamut of all the years we've been together. And you really get a taste of what this program was and what this experience was for us. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, that's the the anatomy. I feel like our whole film and our whole journey together has been an exploration of what is needed, what is the anatomy of a space where everyone can be in a state of empathetic witnessing. And
yep.
it felt like too that the actual documentary needed to have a name that was connected to our program, but also giving it its wings to do what it was going to do in the world, and it is starting to do in the world. It was always our intention that by filming, we were sharing with all the young ladies who could not be in the space with us.
Mm. Yeah. So when you talk about space, because that was one of the things that creating a space to grow is what came out for me. Like this space where these young ladies grew into themselves. They grew into the program that you all set forth for them to matriculate through, and then they grew in life. Um, what what was it? What did it take to create that space week after week? What did it take from you all as facilitators and volunteers to create that space? Because I know that one of the things that really got to that's still hanging on from the retreat is you all are bringing anger from other parts of your life,
Mm-hmm.
and we are here together. And so that's really from the beginning of the film to that point. That's pretty much where I stopped at for now. Where I'm like, this space was really important. Just space.
Some of the young women have lately, as the film is going into the world and the young women are able to talk about what this project has meant to more and more folks. I believe it was Danisha who recently said the space wasn't just our physical space in the classroom. She has this beautiful way of expressing it's a space that we created that excuse me, comes with us wherever we go.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and in filmmaking, it took us a while to get the space right for other people to view and to be able to step into. Um, because even though you get it now, like when you watch people were like, "What is this bubble y'all are in? Like, what are y'all doing? Hugging and holding each other's hands?" Um, but now you get to walk the journey with us, and I hope that it feels like you're one of the mentors or one of the girls experiencing this for yourself as well.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. That definitely was transferred. I definitely got that. I felt like the girl and the mentor at some time at point in the film. Nikiea, I wanna before I got to the retreat, we talked about I saw you all discussed graduation. You were graduating from college. But earlier in the film, it talked about how eighth grade graduation, unfortunately, for so many in Baltimore, is probably the last graduation they'll have. So, what was it like sharing your graduation experience? I know you said a little bit about it, but could you tell our audience like what was it about sharing that graduation experience and overcoming the part like because I felt that same way too, like I'm the first one to go to college and my immediate family and actually go all the way through. So there's this level of you got to do it because you got to do it. And then there's this level of what do I really want out of this experience? And I'm not sure the two even correlate. That's where I was when I was graduating. So how about you?
For me, it was I have to admit that graduating for me, it took me a while to appreciate it, even though I talk about it in the film because I'm reflecting on it. Um, but going through the process, I guess I was so afraid of that step.
Mm.
What would it be like? What would my life be like without school? And I was in school for a long time. So it's just like, oh, this is about to happen. Um, but just watching the girls graduate, watching their excitement and the family just connectedness that came with that, it even encouraged me to even want to be filmed while I was graduating. Um, to even want to open my life the way they were opening theirs.
Yeah.
And for me, I know that I'm their mentor, but I just gained so much from being around them. Um, and graduating from college, I know was something that they can look to and say they can do it as well. But also, just them graduating from high school, I know for me, just watching that process was just mind blowing. And for them, a lot of them are first generation high school graduates.
Mm.
Um, and we don't really touch on that in the film as much, but that's our makeup. So
Mm.
that whole part of our lives was just so big, and it was nice that all of us were able to do it around the same time.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
amazing how all that aligned. I can
Right.
see how it naturally, organically flowed.
Mhm.
Some stuff the film you couldn't manufacture, and
Right.
that, you could see the authenticity of you all coming together and just letting spirit do what spirit does.
Mm. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
those kind of people.
Yeah.
Kirsten, what was it like for you capturing that? And we'll talk about the race dynamics too, because in this film, I felt no separation whatsoever, but I know that was always in the
Yeah.
room. So what
Yes.
did it feel like to be able to capture these brown women and
Right.
and not necessarily be an outsider, but just be different, and maybe an outsider, because I
Right.
don't know how you would characterize it, but how did it feel to do this and be that staple, because you were constant in this whole
Yeah. Wow. That's such a beautiful and important question, and one, that I think if we're going to be transparent, I struggle in answering the way I really experienced it. Thinking about the day, Nikiea, we filmed you preparing for your college graduation, and I remember kind of calling and saying, "Is it okay? Like, is this okay if I come over?" And I feel like, you know, a lot of our young ladies were filming, and then some of them took breaks from filming, but they were always the ones who decided what we would film. If they invited us to prom or invited to a pep rally, to a event, with their family in their home. So that was really beautiful. But to really answer your question, Tiffany, I grew up at the New Jersey Shore. I did not grow up in Baltimore. And I am a white woman filmmaker. I, it's just, I don't have the words to describe the blessing. I knew living in Baltimore, I didn't know how, and I didn't really completely understand, but I could feel those systemic lines drawn in the sand. And even thinking about how parts of Baltimore, even just the roads, are in one-way roads, and they make it hard for us to even drive, or maneuver across the what sometimes are lines between our neighborhoods. So I wanted to be I wanted to collaborate on what are we going to do with that. How are we going to reach hands across so that they're not even, those lines aren't there anymore.
Right.
Am
Mm.
I kind of answering your
Absolutely, because
question? Okay.
one of the things you're speaking of, I was just driving from east to west last night,
Hmm.
and I'm a West Sider, by the way, but East Side has been my destination here lately. My daughter plays basketball out there, but um, it it always bothers me to see the blatant dichotomy in our neighborhoods. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just so blatant that it just pierces my heart. Like every time I can see it. And then you look around and it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And so I'm driving up Orleans, and one side of the street is lit. Like I think this is Milton. One is Milton and Luzerne, and you're coming up 40, and I'm going back west. When you just hit it right on the nose with the one-way streets. I don't know if you can really articulate this with your heart, because I don't think we set up to be separate like this.
Right.
And so it's lights draped all across the street, and the neighborhood is completely lit. This was my left-hand side.
Right.
And then on the right-hand side, it's pitch dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's a one-way street going towards Patterson Park, that other way. I don't know what's down there, but like towards the water.
Yes.
And then the next block, I don't know if that was Luzerne, so I think I'm down on not Montfort, but another M Street. And then on the right-hand side, it's all lit up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a one-way street.
Yes.
But it's still going towards the water. So we skipped the street where it was going back towards the city. No lights at all.
Right.
And then the next street is back towards the water, but the lights are on this side. So what you can see is this movement to even go on that other side and move the other people out.
Right.
So you got lights on this side. We straight, it's fully populated with lots of cars, and and I'm like, oh, I ain't even like white people must live over there. And then on this side, you got, oh no, but white people over there too. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, what where's this going? And my kids are in the back seat of the car, and I'm just like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we speak to that?
Yeah, right. Because we're all three sitting here together, mothers in this moment, and we can't have another generation of children born into this world with these lines between the neighborhoods. We can't have another generation of children born into this world where they don't see their likeness, in film and cinema that's represented in Love and Light.
Right.
And I think that's, that's, if I could be so bold as to say, that's the conversation around race that I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. Nikiea and I talk a lot about allyship is a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful place of consciousness, but it can also become a comfort zone. So once we reach that place of, okay, we've figured out how to be allies, so how are we going to roll our sleeves up now and do the work?
Right.
And it can sound very spiritual to say, well, we're all living on this planet together, so we have to figure this out. and I think it's a lovely thing to say, but we're not going to figure it out together if we bypass any of the systemic stuff that's hard to talk about.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Nikiea, you want to chime in on that?
Kirsten and I talk like this all the time. And we've talked about from Black people being brought on this continent, to the systematic structures of where we're living now. That was a part of our research and working on the film. That was a part of us understanding each other and also understanding how to make this film in a way that embraces the girls' lives versus showing those hardships, those challenging times in a way that makes them sensationalized. Like,
right.
Oh yes, they living in the ghetto. Like, no, it's their story, and it just so happens that their home might not be in the suburbs, but this is a human being's story. This is not an object. We're not characterizing them in a way that makes it feel like you're objectively looking into their lives.
Right.
And that took a lot of race conversations, not just with ourselves, but also with our amazing editor, Trina Rodriguez, also with anyone who's connected to the film. We try to make sure that everyone's purview is informed by what our girls' experiences are, and then also what the facts are. Like,
right.
you know.
I think that's important because when we talk about, I mean, we some badass women on the line right now. I'm gonna just go ahead and give us our props, right? Just the fact that we are, together again, mothers having these conversations, but also filmmakers and media makers and storytellers, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I know growing up for me, when I was working in journalism, it's like, we have this story, but we got to always pass the story off to the editor or to the producer who may not have that same world view. And that's where the story usually gets lost. And so I really am excited to know that it's, we have female filmmakers that are going that extra mile. It's not just about getting the story on the screen. We know that now, right? It's about making sure that it's depicted in a way, because we've seen stories, and I'm not even going to go there about the biker story that was just recently put out, but that how our lives are just sensationalized, because Baltimore is a rich city. And despite all of the inequities, which I'm not excusing, the people of Baltimore, Black and white, are resilient. And that is something to be extremely proud of. So shout out to the editor too, because what really captured me was the scene and the wide shots from the bird's eye view. Like, I don't think you can get any more. Like, you didn't have to sit, like it when you watch the camera roll up on the city, and you can see exactly what we were talking about. Like, every house is checkered, windows closed, windows full, streets full, streets empty, vacant lots, and then this horizon of just water. Like, I was just like, I'm getting goosebumps even saying it. Like, I was just like, the cinematography was really breathtaking, because exactly what you were saying, Nikiea, is exactly what I got as a viewer, because I'm able to see the city as a character. And I'm gonna ask y'all that now. The city itself, for me, when I teach classes with women, I ask them, the first thing we talk about is how to if you had to give Baltimore a character, who and what would she be? And I'm gonna go ahead and ask y'all. This is your question. Who and what would she be, and what's her background like, and what has she been through? Like, for me, Baltimore is definitely an old school woman, right? And she's lived multiple lifetimes and is able to still be on this plane in real time, but she's got the knowledge and the wherewithal of lifetimes that we've never even seen. And I think that is what's captured in that horizon, in that bird's eye view. I mean, shout out to the editor, because it was, she is on in every transition. We get this view of just Baltimore all by herself. And it's beautiful.
Wow. Oh, wow.
That's a good question.
I think our Baltimore is, if she could speak in this moment, I think she's very exhausted by having to be two separate Baltimores.
Yeah, and for me, my son is sleeping. For me, I feel like Baltimore is, I love that you said an old woman.
Yeah.
I was going to say Baltimore is like a Congo drum. Like,
well, that has the feminine qualities as well.
It has so much rhythm. Yes, it does. Baltimore does make me feel like it's an older woman. It has so much history, and it's so loud and bold. But at the same time, a lot of people don't even know what it's really about. A lot of people don't really know the history behind it. And I've just been blessed to be in a whole bunch of circles to know the history of Baltimore, of East Baltimore, where I'm from. Got to represent East Baltimore. So, yeah, that's what I think to me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I need to just step away for 2 seconds.
You gotta do the mama thing.
Okay.
Nikia's son is 1. My son is 22, so
Wow, and he was well. That's a big change because he was what going to that's an elementary middle school that you captured him in.
Yeah, so the young ladies who star in the film, we first met at Dunbar Middle School, but my son is at the Montessori Public Charter School on Guilford when we were filming. So yeah.
Yeah, he was not 22.
Yeah, he was at 22 at the time. Yeah. But what an amazing, and I hope he'll give an interview about this someday, but what an amazing experience for him. The young ladies in this film really took my son under their wing as they were his older sisters, and who gets that? Who gets that blessing, So yeah.
I'm a stay right on that Baltimore character real quick. Hey,
there he is.
Sorry.
Hi, Ashton. Hi, buddy.
He's like, hi. Oh boy.
So the young ladies dealt with mental health challenges, which that's why I wanted, because when you say Baltimore struggling with having to be two separate things, I know when I graduated, well, I dealt with some of those same things growing up in Baltimore as those young ladies expressed, which is why again I'm just so inspired by their transparency, because growing up I kept that under the rug and just struggled with just the two me's. When we talk about, I live in the 29 zip code. I don't know if you all are familiar, but you got $1 million houses in one area, and then you go down Emerson Village and it's a totally different story. And then to go to school in the city is like you have to be a whole nother different person once you go down that hill.
Right.
And that, and so I saw young ladies having to oscillate between home life and then getting into Anatomy of Wings, and then Kirsten, you calling all of the goodness and the compassion and the kindness out of them, and then they had to go home and shield up and gird up and protect themselves in ways that children shouldn't have to protect themselves.
Right.
And so what did it take for you to be able to, and what did you experience from them just watching? And this is for you too, Nikiea, like watching those young ladies have to oscillate like this, because we say Baltimore, this inanimate, not, we can't see her, but we can see her. But these are actually human beings that this film is about, that have to live that life of going back and forth emotionally, back and forth. One person is calling me to be my true authentic self, and then I get home and people are asking me to cover all that up and ascribe to whatever it is that they want me to subscribe to.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. One of my first responses is, I think that's why we kept the group to 10 young ladies.
Right.
And, I've talked about this before, in that it was hard to stay funded because a lot of funders want to know why you don't have 30, 40, 50 young people in the group. But so and we do say in the film that we know everyone's going home to different lives. And I think that one of the reasons I'm so glad that the film's coming out now that our young women are in their mid to later 20s is because I feel like they're going to have a chance to address exactly what you've just asked of us, Tiffany. During the day when they were younger and they were in middle school and high school, it wasn't all that, and even within the 10 young ladies, there's very different circumstances at home, some with stable homes and some with constantly shifting homes. And so for me, trying to understand, you try to understand as someone who's organizing a program, maybe what can be done. And then you do what you can, in those hours you have together, in our case, every Thursday for all those years. And then there's a person that, puts their head down on the pillow at night, and you're, what can I do on a personal level? And then you start to realize, what if everyone doesn't have a pillow to put their head down on this particular night? So in some of the ways, you can feel powerless, even though you have the best of intentions. And then you wake up in the morning, and really the only answer in that moment might be, we got to keep talking about this amongst ourselves. We have to keep making this film for sure now, and part of the dream is that the young women in this film will be funded to run their own programs in the spirit, and that we keep saying, how about 10 groups with 10 girls instead of one group with 40 or 50 girls, and just kind of let it keep permeating. But in some ways, there's really no way to answer your question. And I'm going to say something I haven't said in an interview yet, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Yes, give me an exclusive.
Okay. The 1% really needs to get their act together. The universe does not entrust you with that amount of money to hoard it. The universe does not entrust you with that amount of money so that you might be living in some echelon of means while other folks are trying to keep food in the fridge. That's not why the universe entrusted you with those funds. And the 1% needs to wake up. I hope that Anatomy of Wings is part of that wake up call. That's why we, that's why we had to leave it raw, and that's why we had to not edit it in a way that was comfy to get up and say, oh, I learned about someone else, and now I'll go back into my regular life. We need the 1% to wake up and understand why the universe has entrusted them with what they were entrusted with.
I'm so happy you said that.
Yeah.
I am, because and trust me, the universe is listening. I was just definitely listening, because I was just in a conversation yesterday and today. I work for Fusion Partnerships, which is a fiscal sponsor agency. Yes, that supports programming, and I am the firecracker on the staff.
Okay.
So, because I've walked both of you all shoes, having my own programming as well, and having to put food on the table. So I gotta go get a job at Fusion Partnership. And shout out to Strongheart and Polly, who had this vision. Yes. I'm going to get to them next. Shout out to them, because they have really kept this vision alive, so much so that Polly has joined back the board to really push that 1%. And we were in a conversation just yesterday about this, where we had some people who represented the 1% on the line, and it was it was just interesting to see that we need to get these dollars into the hands of people who are doing the work. And in order to do the work, it's about quality, not quantity. So funding a 10-girl program is sufficient, because those 10 girls will go out and really impact the world. And there are not enough female programs, because we have so much that we got to spend 10-12 years with 10 girls to make a solid impact. And that's real. People need to understand that. Like, this is not like you said in the film, Nikiea, this is not something where we just gloss over. Video skills is not primary. Communication skills are primary. Self-mastery skills and self-efficacy is primary, and the film comes next. So go ahead and speak to that, Nikiea. I know you got something.
Yes. I feel you 100%, and that's why I said in the film, because I was one of those people helping to run a few programs, and the number is like always about the data, the numbers, and how many kids are in attendance, but we're not reaching the soul of the person. We're not reaching the whole child, really. We say we are, because we're feeding them, We say that we are because we have PRP people on site. We say we are because we look like we are. But Wings is showing Wings is showing the side that of people that are running these programs and don't necessarily have $300,000 a year, or not even a year, but every 6 months to run, an after school program. What about the people who are on the ground working and touching the soul of children because they're reaching them in places that aren't popularly funded?
Yeah.
And our kids in Wings were happy to go home. The girls were enlightened and happy to be getting off the bus to go home. I had kids in my after school program that were clinging to me because they didn't want to go home at the end of the day. They weren't as empowered, and I didn't have the space to give my staff the tools to even get to them in the way that we got to them in Wings. I did a little bit, you can only do as much as you can. But what about reaching the whole child where they asked to be reached and allowing them to be comfortable and to be able to say, okay, I can go back into my environment and take the light that I've received. We just had one Thursday every week. Take the light that I received every Thursday and be able to move on with my life for the rest of the week until I get replenished again. Like, what if that was possible for more youth and people like you who already know, like, what if it was possible for you to be able to feed your children well and go home and you have a nice glass of wine to drink after dealing with
That's
everything
all that,
versus, the opposite. And yeah, I 100% agree
Yeah.
that yes, sometimes those large programs are important, because I learned a lot. But also in Wings, I learned that sometimes it's okay to move slow. Sometimes some children need that, and what is happening with those kids that aren't getting it?
right? Yeah, you all addressed a part of that. I wonder if we put on blast those like when I saw you all had the young ladies write down what Wings meant to them because it was difficult to find funding. And while you were talking to Nikiea, the first thing I like is like we can't fit our babies into nicely knit outcomes. Right? Like this
Right.
is the box, right? And this is the outcome. But what if, getting that person past the 8th grade with confidence?
Yeah.
Not just getting past the 8th grade, but with the confidence to not only get to the 12th grade, but then to be a caring, attentive mother and citizen in her community that has potlucks for other young people in her community. Like those small projects, like, one thing about Baltimore, it's a homey kind of town, but I see a lot of programming having to meet standards that don't even fit our character. We love, it's just the hominess, like the potluck dinners. Like you can't put that in the outcome. But I'm telling you, you cannot without not being true to what it really is. You would just take all the language in the grant somewhere else just to let people know I'm sitting down and I'm breaking bread with these kids on spot.
And sometimes food is not even allowed.
Right.
That kind of food.
Right. It got to be prepared by a caterer in order for you to get the money. Like,
yeah.
So we got work to do, but I feel so hopeful that we're all on the same team, and I do feel that the rise in feminine power is really going to take our city and our universe to the next level. Is a lot of balance to be had, and So one of the young ladies, I don't know if I missed it. I didn't see it yet, but did we lose one of our young ladies to transition?
Okay.
It's one of the mentors.
Okay, one of the mentors. So what was that like, and how did that impact? the work and moving forward.
Right. Yeah, that was such, and this was I think that the for our young women, when Kata shared about his transition, they had only seen or heard it mentioned on television at that point, because this is back in 2010.
Right.
So, I think for the young women, it was really important to them to see that even the mentors, or even if you consider Kate at that time as, say, a junior mentor, because he was still an undergraduate student. But for them to know that we, the mentors, were willing to be vulnerable as well. That again those are the conditions needed for a space of empathetic witnessing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that what we experienced the day that Kata shared this with everyone, and also then puts the young women in the role in a way of being mentor or advisor too, because they're there to bear witness and to offer their response. So it was so powerful, and
Right.
it's amazing to me, like, that we only had Thursdays, but every Thursday there was something like amazing where someone
Something
really
big.
allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that the term you're using as empathetic witnessing? That's really resonating with me right now, as and the scene that's coming up for me, two scenes, and either of you, we don't have to tackle it all, but whichever one speaks to each of you, that comes up for me. The first scene, when it came to empathetic witnessing, that I saw was
The special guests and stuff.
Cammy with the mom who passed away.
Yes.
And
Her
she
mother,
came,
Teresa. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, my mom's name is Teresa. Her mom transitioned due to complications with HIV, and just witnessing her. And this was at the beginning more so, when she showed up to share with the young ladies about sex and about valuing themselves and who they are. And then the other part was, again, I saw, and Cammie was another voice, I believe, but at the retreat, where the young ladies were just fighting for space. And again, not physical space.
Right.
But they were fighting for space to just be. I remember it wasn't Cammie, but it was another young lady who was just like, I don't want to be home. I don't want to be home. And I came to this retreat because I don't want to be home. And for all of y'all to be making all of this noise is just like doing too much, because she had really placed so much value, from what I can see, on being able to escape.
Whew, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she had lost her mother and was living with the family that had space, and it wasn't. Cammie's mother was her best friend, and to have to lose that, and then to lose the physical space that she lived with her mother. And I mean, I have no idea what that was like for her, but so I'm more reflecting than responding.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It's hard to
Yeah.
it's hard
Yeah.
to watch. It's still
Yeah.
hard to watch, and we're making the movie.
Right. Right.
We were there when she was talking about it.
Yeah.
But what I guess what I'm witnessing about that empathetic witnessing is even though you didn't have a point of reference per se, what really struck me was, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And I can't, as a mother, and then I don't know if that was some commentary or if that was actually in that space, but being being a mom, and this is where we transcend that race thing, and this is just girl power at this point.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't care what you've been through, and it doesn't really matter that I didn't go through that exact thing. As a mother, I'm right here,
Right.
and I
And
get that.
yeah. And mothers can hear each other whether we're in our bodies or not. That's what was happening in that moment. Cammie's mother needed to be with Cammie. Again, I guess I'm coming out today, saying things
Yeah,
I
I
haven't
know.
said in other interviews. But so we've been talking about, as we release this film, about the intuitive feminine, which is not gender based. It's really that part of us that knows and that feels and is not just living in the world of form, but can feel everything. And when we can trust and again, it's not gender based. The intuitive feminine is for everyone. And I love when men trust their intuitive feminine. I'm married to one and have given birth to one. So, but, so there's also a little side story that we were all so upset. We actually did not know the filming was still happening. And that is the truth.
Yep.
That is the absolute truth. So when Teresa wants to talk, I wasn't going to stand in the way. Teresa wanted to talk to her daughter. Yeah, that's what it was. And that's a very raw moment. And they've even had some editors that helped shape before Trina, we know her as Trina. Before Trinidad Rodriguez came on as editing, people had told me it was too raw, that part, and it needed to come out.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. What I actually saw when you just said I'm coming out, what I actually saw and what I see with this film, though, is this awakening happening for our young people.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that the young people of this particular generation already have that knowing, but it's been suppressed.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
And to be able to know, like, Baltimore is such there's a spiritual thing on Baltimore if we really want to go there, and it's so, our ancestors of all backgrounds are with us. I mean, very potently,
right,
in this city. And if we would go back to Baltimore's character again, I would say that Baltimore is struggling with who she really is as a medium.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And being able to translate information from the other side that will liberate us. Mm-hmm. So I thank you, Kirsten, for even going, because
Thank you.
even if it's about 7 seconds, I mean, somebody needs to hear that, because a lot of our young people, where that mental illness is coming from, is that they're tangling with and they're wrangling with that all intuitive knowing that's very potent in our young people.
Yes.
It's so potent. And you can only take 10 girls at a time when you're dealing with young women who have that knowing and are trying to push through that and be okay and feel normal.
Right. And
yes.
And when we speak of it that way, it's not a mental illness. It's part of your knowing.
Absolutely.
And
right.
then I thank you, Tiffany, because for some reason I just felt comfortable. This is the first time I've kind of said that out loud. But another thing, that you're touching on, Tiffany, is even, Sundance just passed, and I watched some of the panels that were provided, and there were women filmmakers talking about their ancestors on Sundance panels, Sundance Film Festival panels. I'm like, this is good.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, just to hear other women talking about their ancestors publicly and in film, so where this is.
Yes.
This is what we want post-pandemic. This is what we want.
Right.
Yeah, this is a great time for this to come out, because, like you said, how are the young people? Have they seen it yet? Have they seen this film? Have they been a chance to view themselves? And what kind of feedback, Nikiea, are you getting from them?
Most of them have watched this version. A lot of them, all of them have watched some versions.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them have watched this version. I'm sure most of them will be watching it for the first time in the slam dance screening. Um, and and a few of them have said like, look, I have to work, you know, and I'm celebrating with us, but I can't be present at everything because I have to put food on my table for my kids. Um, but I'm proud of myself, you know? Like everybody is, from what I gather, everyone is of course proud of the fact that someone said that their story was going to be out there and kept the promise. And now they can see themselves in all of these different places and be proud that their parts of the story is is making a difference. Um and I say that because a lot of kids who watch just our trailers are already affected by just being able to see how we discuss things and how we talk about what happens living in Baltimore, and that's just our trailers, you know.
Yeah,
Um
I'm doing a PRP group. I just actually got a contract and I'm doing an on-site PRP, and that is our topic next week. I already put it in the group chat. I sent them the trailer,
Thank you.
and this is how we moving forward with groups. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm changing the face of what
Everybody
PRP
is
look like.
excited.
Yeah.
Yes.
From what I know, everybody's excited. Everybody might not want to be in the limelight right this second, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's a process, and it needs to be fluid, and so the young women are stepping in it as they're ready. We have some young women who have been doing a lot of interviews like we're doing today, and some who are still preparing. And
Good.
that's part of the beauty about it too. It's we want, how do I put it? It's such a beautiful sharing that we don't want to make it heavy with a sense of like urgency, or just, yeah, we want everyone to feel ready as they're ready. So
Yes.
the overall message is urgent.
Right.
Right.
But for each young woman to decide for themselves how they're part of that conversation is important, but not that urgency. I guess what I'm trying to say is, we all know, and in some ways, the pandemic has slowed us down, so we might see this even a little clearer, but that sense of urgency that keeps us in fight and flight hasn't gotten us anywhere as a human race, and it supports white supremacist thinking and patterns. So each individual needs to decide for themselves what their pace is, and it
Right.
we had young women step into a space where they found the courage to share this through filming, and then it's yet another whole other ball of wax to say, yes, now this can go in the world. And those stages need to move at different paces for different people. Yeah. It might be one of the reasons we took 12 years to really put the film in the world.
Yeah, because it's sensitive information, and then to have to I can only imagine for the young people now, young adults, watching themselves and having to process, like you said earlier in the conversation, like now that it's out, this is a whole different level of realization. Like
Yes.
this is a different level of of awareness that that you didn't necessarily practice or yoga your way to or breathe your way through. Like it's just like, bam, this is you, this was you, and so for them to have to watch themselves and then be able to process their former selves and then to be able to emit their new selves, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
It
I'm
is.
rooting for them because there's so much that we need that the world can gain from their story. So I'm definitely sending them positive vibes and love that their process is what it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
so that they can have the courage to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
I definitely would like to have a conversation with some of them in the near
Oh,
Oh,
future.
I love
that would be
that.
wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah. Um, I think I got what I got a lot. I didn't
Okay.
have I didn't I So when you sent me this message, Nikiea, like I said, the universe is listening, and I've just been in this space where I'm just going to do what the universe say, because I've asked for things, and I've asked for space like this, authentic space where women can just talk about our work and be authentic and share, and also feed one another, because this conversation has definitely fed me. I was thinking about writing this up, but as you can see, like, because of COVID and all of this, I've had to set up StreamYard and everything.
Mhm.
And so I've been struggling with some content, like you all, I've held on to for some years, and it still hasn't been hitting right. And I wanted to know if you all were open to this conversation here just being shared on my platforms as is. Of course, I'll do some write-ups for for all of my outlets. I the Afro, the Baltimore Times, some write-ups, but I think that this conversation and where how we showed up today is just dope. And I would like this to kind of be the first thing I put up.
Wow.
Right.
I don't, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nikiea.
I'm fine with it.
Babies and all, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, babies and all. No, babies and all.
And I just came out as someone who chattels mothers, so it's all good.
Okay, all right, yeah. I just because I my intention was to just take the
Mhm.
audio and write something from it, and I definitely will. But this
Yeah.
is also some content that I think will encourage some young ladies who may not ever pick up the Afro American newspaper or
Right.
the
Yeah.
Baltimore Times, and this is pretty much the audience that this really speaks to. Now,
Yeah.
yes, we want some funders to run us some money, but
Mhm.
just the stories alone for these young people, to be able to see this in real time and be able to view the trailer and know that some people from their hood, from around their way, were courageous enough to have some cameras following them for over 12, for over 10 years through, and I just think it'll be, I just would like to share it if I have you all's permission.
Yeah. No, it I'd like to share that Nikiea and I have been doing a lot of interviews. This one just this really went
Yes.
somewhere
Yes.
else, and if this particular interview of these past weeks, this is the one that has felt actually okay, that's what I'm trying to say. This one felt like wings.
Mm,
This is how this
It
interview
did.
felt like the space of wings. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm glad, because that's how you all influenced me, and I look forward. I would love to work with you all. So a little bit about what I do outside of Fusion is I have a nonprofit organization, the Fly Girl Network, and that's exactly why I was so inspired by this, because the other thing in Baltimore is we're all in these pockets and we think we're by ourselves. And then when something like Wings comes along, and I'm like, oh, so that really was a thing when I gave up on it. When I decided that I didn't have the capacity or the funds, right?
Right.
So this really helps me to push forth the mission of the Fly Girl Network, which is to inspire self-awareness, to teach self-mastery, and to facilitate transformative experiences. That's our mission through storytelling and through media.
Yeah.
And so and coaching. So this is the total embodiment. That's why I say the universe is listening, because sometimes we think it's supposed to be all packaged up in these outcomes
Right.
that somebody else can give us a pat on the back. But this right here, the young ladies that I worked with back in 2010 are the same age. Like this is just like I started my organization at Emerson Westside High School as a teacher.
Okay. Yeah.
And the
Wow.
only way that I could get my kids to read and understand and, interact with me, it was like, we need a space to dump all this stuff.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not performing for you. I'm not writing this paper. I'm not doing all of this until I have some space and, that is what my teaching career turned out to be. It had nothing to do with the skill of teaching whatsoever. But I believe that I was put in that classroom and in that school for 5 years, because I never went back to the classroom after that. So it was like for that 5 years to be there for those young people. And they're 27. One of them, I'm going to actually go pick up the babysit for one of her children now. And I know that this weekend, I just felt like I needed to spend time with their children.
Right.
So for Valentine's Day, I'm spending time with their baby so that they can have a break. And it's just amazing. Like this is what it is. It doesn't have to be neatly packaged, but authentic. And that's what I saw all throughout Anatomy of Wings. And I really, really appreciate you all for having the courage and the tenacity to push it forward, because now we can connect on such a higher level. And what student? It was a student that was from I saw Red Storm in the video. Who was that? Because I'm like, I was teaching that year at that school, and she was at a track meet and all.
Brittany and Cammy.
Yeah.
Yes, Brittany and Cammy. They went to Edmondson.
Yes, I was there from 2010 to 2014.
This
Wow.
this is all full circle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So do you all have any last words, anything you want to impart to our ever growing audience? I can feel it.
Wow. I just, this was such a beautiful conversation. And just want to thank you, Tiffany, for being so welcoming. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you
and I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, if
my internet.
Okay.
I'll put it back.
Just wanted to say too, like this would be an amazing platform for our young women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to maybe perhaps facilitate some conversations just like this, because it's actually in the making. It's actually this is funny. I'm applying for Maryland Combined Charities today. It's a deadline to have for for people to be able to do the payroll deductions from their organization, because I'm supporting organizations through Fusion, but because I'm my own 501c3. Like I'm kind of on the ground doing that part on my own to prevent the conflict of interest. And I love the work of Fusion, so I don't even want to clash the two. So so yes, I'm definitely looking to talk with, to partner in other ways so that we can a platform like this where we can just have these conversations, take some topics and break down wings maybe, and take some scenes and really drill down on the overall themes that are still universal and still impacting young people today. That's just the vision that I had as I woke up this morning watching it. And so yes, we're gonna have to talk offline. But yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it all sounds wonderful. It really does.
Yes.
We were
Thank
just saying, Nikiea, wouldn't this be an amazing platform for the women?
Yes, I was just thinking
Tiffany
that.
this way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So, and
yes, I would love to facilitate some conversations. Yes.
And Polly and Strongheart, Fusion was actually one of our early fiscal sponsors for this film. So
shout out to Fusion.
I think about going. Nikiea knows I won't go into it, but I think about going back all the time. We have a deal with Micah right now, which is really helps us because we get 100% of all our contributions. But I think about Polly and Strongheart all the time, and I miss them, and I can't wait till maybe we go back to them. So it's really interesting.
Well, they've retired, so they're kind of guiding the ship. Polly is on our board of directors.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Still advocating and using her voice, and Strongheart, she's fully retired right now, but it's the essence of Strongheart is all through and out that place and still represented throughout that board of director. And that's why I say shout out to them, because what they created was a spirit of social justice and equity, not just an organization. So like I just came on board last year this time. I actually just celebrated my 1 year anniversary, and I thought it was just going to be another job. And I'm like, I ain't, I really want to focus on the Fly Girl Network. I just need to capture some coins and and go on. But it has been a part of my entire heart, my whole makeup, because without places like Fusion and without organizations that give Fusion the opportunity to serve and represent them, we would be so much further behind the 8 ball when it comes to establishing equity in our community. So yes, it's such a blessing to be part of the Fusion family, and of course hit full circle again. So you all are part of the Fusion family, because once Fusion, always Fusion.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's really true. I don't know what the years that they were supporting Finding Our Wings, I don't know what I would have done without them. And I'm so sorry, you guys. I have to go to a meeting with an epidemiologist who's going to redo how my students do their filming. So I got to scooch over to that.
All right.
So COVID safe filming is another thing, part of keeping the dream alive. But Tiffany, this was just, I can't thank you enough.
I can't thank you all enough. You just made my life so much easier. This authentic conversation was just good enough for whatever is going to come out of it, and I really appreciate you all. So I will be in touch.
Blessings.
Okay.
Yes. All right.
Bye for now. Bye for now.
Bye for now. Right.